So I started getting really concerned, and I was like, like there's so much wrong with me. I have to go back to my doctor. I went back to the doctor that diagnosed me with PCOS, and the response was, you have a history of PCOS. You probably still have it. Just keep dieting and exercising. You're doing great. So that was, that was a pivotal moment. It was like, I have been dieting and exercising for 5 years straight. I lost 100 pounds. I did everything that you all had said I should do, the fitness industry, the diet industry, the medical community that I had. And I am more sick now than I've ever been in my life. And you're telling me just to keep eating the chicken and broccoli?
Yes.
And listen to what, and to be fair, I couldn't even exercise like I was before. I used to be really strong. I could go in and deadlift nearly 300 pounds, squat double my body weight. I couldn't even squat with a bar on my back, which is typically 35 pounds. Like, I got so weak. I mean, like, it was just really debilitating. And that's when I was like, yeah, something's not right. I'm gonna have to start looking in. I'm gonna have to start looking into PCOS. Like, what is this monster? And I did have enough knowledge to know how to like do some research and things like that. I started reaching out to other people in the space that were what I would consider experts in the field. Started reaching out to organizations like PCOS Challenge, the nonprofit, going to events where healthcare professionals are teaching you how to manage this condition, all of this stuff that nobody's telling you.
Right.
It's the opposite of what you're hearing. And that was when I was really like, I'm glad, like, I am definitely going to be a health coach, because I have to start teaching people the stuff that nobody else is telling them. Because the fitness industry, I know, is failing other people. I know the medical community is failing other people. But also just like seeing, like, PCOS is obviously very close to home for me. That is one community that I just saw was really getting hit hard. Like, it's a community that, when you get this diagnosis, you're told just lose weight, come back when you want to get pregnant. And you're not getting education. You're falling on maybe the fitness community to figure out how to heal. And look what happened to me. I'm not the only person. My story is not singled out. And there's just so much like misinformation just like floating around. It took me about 3 years to regain my health. I still struggle with a lot of it, but I just have learned over that time, a lot of the things that it took for me to heal was against the grain of what I was initially told in the earlier stages of my like health journey or my PCOS journey, whatever you want to call it. And I mean, there's millions more like me out there. And so, I knew I was where I was supposed to be.
Yes.
I had a hard way to get there. I had a hard lesson learned, but I knew where I was supposed to be. And, one of my mentors in my life kind of told me, if God or the powers to be gave you what you wanted during that competition, which was to keep being a competitor and be this bodybuilder for a career, blah, 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 get sponsorship, you wouldn't be where you are today, and you wouldn't be changing the life that you're changing. And I was like, I needed that. I really needed that perspective, because, it hurt to like have a dream that you realize that you couldn't do, and even though I had this like amazing endeavor on this other side, that still kind of lingered with me. And so it was really nice to be like, you know what, like, if I didn't go through all that hard stuff for all those years, I probably wouldn't be here helping other people, being the health coach that I am with the experience that I am. Because there are a lot of health coaches out there. They take the courses, they I don't want to say treat, they, care for their clients in the way that they learned in that course, and they don't know, I would like to assume they don't know any better, because they keep doing a lot of the things. And especially the PCOS community is getting hurt in the long run from that.
Yeah. And you kind of touched on this.
Really long-winded story. I hope I answered the original question. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. That was great. One of the things that you touched on kind of in the beginning, and then again at the end, was this idea that even as a nurse, not having kind of that history and that background, with learning about PCOS, that you really had to go out and figure it out all on your own. And I feel the same way as a dietitian. I actually had to go back and look at, my textbook again from medical nutrition therapy, and I found one little paragraph about PCOS. Yep, exactly. Yes, mine's a little, a little bit older, so I would be curious. Yeah, a teeny tiny little book that I read cover to cover. So one little paragraph that we didn't even talk about in class. And, I just thought, no wonder there is so much misinformation and people are so confused because, the people that are supposed to, help us out here don't even have the education. We have to kind of go out and get it ourselves.
You're right. It's not even in full pages. In mine, like there are some charts that kind of cover it up. It gets mentioned. Okay.
Good.
It's definitely for someone who's literally just going through it right now. It gets mentioned, but probably not to the extent that it needs to. The verbiage for people like you and I that are advocates on like a more legislative level, and we talk about like when research is getting funded and like how that can make grand impacts for years on the community. Like the verbiage is still I believe like the very first line is like, PCOS impacts 10% of women of reproductive age. Very first line. And it's like, well, cool thing is it, it does cite the studies, and one of the researchers that has a study cited in the textbook actually got to meet this past year on two occasions.
Wow. Oh, that's great.
I know this guy. But yeah, it's very limited. And, I'm sorry if I'm going off track a little bit, but I was recently at the Androgen Excess and PCOS Society meeting, which is the people who help create the international guidelines for managing and treating PCOS that clinicians should be using. And I had the honor of being in the room with all of these scientists, researchers, investigators, the clinicians, and things like that. I was there on behalf of patient advocacy groups. So I was there speaking to be the voice for the patients, to remind these, researchers, hey, like when you're doing your research, yes, yay science, but also remember that it's impacting like people with real lived experience, right? And this is what the patients want to see and stuff. And we got to talking about the nutrition education and the medical like education, like for doctors. And one of the doctors there had mentioned that a lot of deans are further restricting and not restricting, but reducing the education on nutrition in medical school for clinicians. And
that's so disappointing.
Because one of his asks were, could that be a role that patient advocacy groups play, is going to deans of various universities and letting them know the importance of doctors having medical nutrition information, especially with conditions like PCOS, so that so many people aren't skewed the wrong way. But there still needs to be, I've asked a lot of dietitians what your education was on PCOS during school, and if it's what I'm seeing so far, it's very minimal.
It is. And I think that's so interesting, the thought of decreasing the number of hours that a future doctor goes through a medical school. Because I think if you're going to do that, my hope and assumption is that you're thinking like, let's focus on the medical side and we'll use dietitians for the nutrition side. And it's like, then we've got to train everyone, because it's not just doctors alone, but dietitians included, to be better about referring out, to really use that multidisciplinary approach. And personally, I think that's the way that we should go. But often that's just not the way it goes.
I know a lot of dietitians that feel that way. And I think it would take a little bit of the load off of the providers too, the
definitely.
It's like, hey, I mean, the general health, the same thing that we see like on my plate, or whatever. But, let me refer you to our dietitian that specializes in this, and, and so on. I think that would be great, to do that. But right now it seems like it's up to that specific office.
Yes.
to do that.